Hey everybody, I'm Megan Hatcher-Mays, Director of Democracy Policy at Indivisible, and I am here to tell you about some big news, which is that Donald Trump was just indicted again. He was the first president to be impeached twice and the first former president to be indicted also twice. We understand if you've lost track of Trump's many legal problems, but no, this latest indictment is not related to the 30 counts he's facing in New York over the hush money his campaign illegally paid to cover up an affair. That was back in April. And no, this indictment isn't from the Georgia grand jury that's expected to indict him for asking for a few thousand extra votes to be found back in 2020. And believe it or not, no, this indictment is also not related to his incitement of the deadly insurrection on January 6th. No, this indictment is about Donald Trump taking classified documents from the White House after he tried and failed to overturn the 2020 election. I know it's easy to dismiss Trump as a ridiculous person, but the charges he is now facing are incredibly serious and represent a major breach of our national security. So you may remember way back in 2022, federal agents executed a search warrant on his residence at Mar-a-Lago. And what did they find? Over 300 documents that were marked classified or top secret that Trump lied about having in his possession. And then, as he's known to do, he tried to cover it up. This whole situation was part of an ongoing back and forth between the National Archives and Donald Trump. The archives spent over a year hounding Trump to return materials that were missing from his presidential records. He initially stonewalled and refused, but he did eventually send back 15 boxes of documents. And within those boxes were classified materials, which quickly piqued federal law enforcement's interest. After realizing Trump was in possession of top secret and classified documents, the government issued a subpoena demanding Trump return the rest of those documents. Trump, not a guy known for his adherence to the law, instead tried to cover up what he'd done by reportedly asking his staff to move the boxes of classified documents around to avoid complying with the subpoena. He then apparently admitted to unlawfully taking those documents in a recording obtained by federal prosecutors. In it, he reportedly admits that I could have declassified these documents, but now I can't, and then said, and I am not making this up, this is secret information. Look at this. Over 100 classified documents have since been recovered, and on June 8th, a grand jury and the Department of Justice issued an indictment and charged Donald Trump under the Espionage Act for willful retention of national defense information, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, false statements, and concealment. Not a great look for a former president and current presidential candidate. So what's next? There's still a lot we don't know about the trial and how long this could all take, but here's what we do know. As you might recall, this man is still the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination. So we don't know the timeline of the criminal proceedings just yet, but Trump is still allowed to keep running for president, and he could still win the nomination and even the presidency despite his flagrant criminal behavior. In fact, if he wins, he could shut down federal investigations into his crimes and even pardon himself for this very indictment and any future federal indictments. So it's time we ask his fellow Republicans, WTF? Do you really support a man for president who has now been indicted twice, this time under the Espionage Act? So if you live in a district represented by a Republican, it is essential that you ask them if they'll support Trump as the Republican nominee. If they won't answer, stay on them. Ask them why someone who's been indicted for endangering our national security and willfully breaking the law deserves to be president of the United States. Get them on record and don't let them lie or pivot. Record their answer and then publish it so that everyone can see what they say. Republicans can't fly under the radar on this. As their constituent, you deserve answers, and we deserve better leaders. So find out more about our top targets for accountability at unrepresentative18.org.